सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धे भवतु मे सदा वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं हरि ओम कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. Yes, there was a short break in the last two sessions. So we are resuming. I request Chitraji to bring us up to date so we can continue. What was it that we saw last? Go ahead, Chitraji.
Yeah. Hari Om. We saw then in the previous session, the topic of discussion was who is the sage and how to identify one. And we began the session by understanding what is the state of samadhi. It is an awakened state where the person is untouched or unshaken by the disturbances, be it both an internal conflicts or an external um, related factors. They no longer disturb him. And such a person is conscious in every work that is performed by him in the state of samadhi, and also consciousness of the divine works through such a person, and he is fully an instrument of the divine. And he does not see the bheda between the spiritual world and the material world, etc., and sees that every action has to be performed as a divine work. And this leads us to the understanding of who is a Sthita Pragna, or who can be called as a sage. Krishna explains that it is an illumined, such a person is an illumined person where the mind is desireless, firm, has a single thought, a single minded devotion, and targeted actions are performed, not swayed by emotions. He is fearless, does not suffer in tough times, and his whole aspiration is towards attaining the union with the divine. This is something that we saw in the previous session.
Hari Om. Thank you very much, Chitraji, for that summary. I think a question has been raised. Is it by Shashiji? In the chat, somebody has posted. It is Shashiji only. Shashiji, if you can unmute and you can just share that question, it would be very good for everybody.
Oh, good grief. I'll have to read it quickly. I just would like to ask that I know that any karma we create, good or bad, we
create karmas or we create sanskaras?
No, we create sanskaras, but I call it karma. Whatever action, etc., we create, we pay for it, good or bad. What I'd like to know is that does at any point, because our karma, our
Action. That action
sanskaras,
is karma.
yeah,
Here the karma word can be used. Yes.
yeah, our own karma, then is it us who, without any help from anyone, without any help from God, are we supposed to correct them as we go along, or does God help us out? Because for me personally, I always thought your karma, your yoke to carry, you make the mistake, you rectify it. But I've always thought that God says, you did it, you correct it, I'm out of it. But does he ever help out, apart from guidance, but does he really help us to come out of it, or are we on our own?
Yes, that's a nice question, Rashiji. The role of God. Most of the time we can't see God, isn't it? So we are always doubting the efficacy of God's intervention in His creation. If at all there is an intervention or not, is also a big question. Many, especially on the atheist path, they say there is no intervention because God cannot intervene or God does not exist at all. But then sometimes we feel, is He there? I believe this perception of His absence also is something to do with our mind. Today, our session is about a victor and means the mind of a victor and that of a defeated one. We can I'll just check the exact topic name. It is, defeated mind and the mind of a victor, meaning the individual is the same. It is just the approach which is defining the experience. Not only is it defining the experience, but also it is playing an important role in influencing the consequence also of a person's actions in life. Just like I remember growing up when reading a story when I was growing up, there was one seeker of God. He fervently sought the help of God, and God had somehow got pleased with his tapasya. And he said, I will walk with you. Are you sure? He said, yes. Means he was little bit doubting, but then fine, God has given the word, why should I doubt now? And how will I notice that your presence is there? Because everywhere the mind wants a direct practical proof. Are you there? How do I identify? And God had told him that, don't worry, you will see my footsteps with you. That was what a blessing. So he went on. Now, as he had to walk through, now he went through his journey was taking him ahead in his search in a pilgrimage. As he was moving further, it took him through a desert. And he was watching around. He was so happy to see, huh, God's steps are there, God's steps are there. And suddenly a storm starts coming, and then he's not worried at all. He's not worried about anything because God is with him. Suddenly, as the storm starts going, he is now very afraid because the storm is shaking him and everything is flying around. He's not able to understand, and he tries to, no problem, let me wade ahead, and he tries to move through the storm. And just because, as his usual practice is, to check up for God's presence, he turns around to see if the steps are there. But he doesn't see two pairs of footprints, he only sees one. Now he is worried. God is not with me now in this most important period of the storm when he was supposed to be. That was his promise. But he somehow worried and he goes on because you cannot do anything, but sometimes you have to go on. So he goes on and then the storm passes. Again, he sees God steps again. He gets annoyed. He says, God has cheated me. You see, you're walking with me in the good times. When the storm came, I did not see your footsteps. That time, because he was having a communion with the God, God has told him that, you see, those footsteps that you saw were not yours, but they were mine. I was carrying you. So many times, because of our emotions, which blur our perception, we do not realize, like Arjuna did not realize, the Sarathi was the great Purushottama. His divine charioteer was not just an ordinary charioteer, but he was Sakshat Yogeshwara, the one who can change everything, the avatar. And yet Arjuna could not understand. It was not because the avatar was absent, it was because of the perception of Arjuna was being blurred. And what was the source of the blurring of perception? It was just his attachments. His attachments blinded him. We can say, in a way, Dhritarashtra was not able to see because of attachments. Arjuna also could not see because of attachments. He could not see the truth. He could not see the brilliance, the glory, the might of Krishna that was invisible to him. So God is there. God is with us. Probably we will have to start functioning on a level of consciousness which is higher than what is the emotions and attachments. No matter how important we think they are, it is like sugar for a diabetic patient. At our connection with the attachments. The diabetic patient loves sugar, but when the diabetic patient eats sugar, it's poison for the body. So for a sadhak, attachment is just the same. Any type of attachment, no matter how small it is. We cannot say choti si asha, just small heart, small desires. No, smallest desires only. It is through there the entry takes place. Entry for what? We will see later on in the Gita. There are forces at play. There are asuric forces, there are divine forces also. There's Rajas, there is Tamas, there is Sattva. Sri Aurobindo has described planes, you can say beings of an individual. There is something called vital. Vital has something higher and lower. So lower is what is taken control by emotions. So the question of whether God is present or not, I think many of us who can, I mean, every one of us, if we can just keep our attachments and expectations aside and just look, we might actually see that we've been moved around by God only. God has moved us. But for that, we'll have to become very calm on the inside. Because I remember once I met a particular person in a conference, and I did not know why I traveled so far to go to that conference. That was as early as 2014. I had gone to Nagpur to meet somebody. I did not, I was very disappointed with what happened because I tried speaking something. I wanted to tell something which would lead to some betterment. And I was thinking, because this is an idea where it was about the Vedic chanting program, because in Pondicherry, they are not allowing us to do a study at all because of political reasons. There, this is a atmosphere which is likely to be more conducive. So I spoke so much, and I just felt I do not know what I have done. I was feeling it is almost gone. Then still there was a good friend that I made, so I thought something nice has happened is I made a good friend with a young man who is like me. So maybe somewhere something good came out. It's not absolutely pointless. And that young man is a selfless, dedicated person dedicated to service to the nation. It was something very nice to see a young man doing that. So I thought, chalo, this is my achievement or whatever I have achieved. And then suddenly that young man passed away with some disease. So that shocked me, that made me a little upset about it. But then life goes on. But then when I thought about it, what good came out of it, I felt now there is nothing I can say I achieved something concrete. It was nothing concrete out of that expenditure of time. But come 2024, I think it was in the December month, suddenly somebody whom I met in that conference invited me in here, and that person brought about a different connection. Means something which I had no idea it would happen. Meaning in life, so many such events which look like scattered dots, having no reason, no rhyme, no purpose, they connect when the divine wishes. We have with us Usha Maji also. If she can just share, if Maji, if you're able to unmute about the experience of the release of the child, the date, how it got released. Yes,
Ah, yes,
Maji.
that was amazing.
Yeah. And
We had,
how did you go and search the records to identify it? You can just tell a little bit for those who don't know about it, Maji, in a few
that
lines, if you can.
when Shivaji had gone to book the hall, they found that they had only one date left, and he had to accept that date or postpone it by a month. And so they were we were forced to accept that date. And then he came back and said that this is the date we have got. That was, I think, 23rd, 23rd
23rd.
of 23rd of June.
Yeah.
And then when I was sitting down and chatting with my husband, I realized suddenly that I asked him, should I, after signing the book, should I write the date? So then anyway, what's the date? It will be 23rd June. Then I said, oh, but 23rd June is that date, the date I had the stroke. And he said, yes, you're right. That is exactly the same date. And we could have taken it on any date, but we got only that date.
That was
We couldn't
17
change
years
it.
ago.
Yeah,
19.
19 years ago.
19 years ago. 19 years ago, you got stroke, and 19 years later, you are celebrating the anniversary with the release of a book dedicated to Krishna, calling
On the
it child,
same
and the
date.
child, gives you a gift, which nobody
He
knew,
really, and he really
isn't it?
shows his presence in these coincidences,
Yes,
which is
yes, yes,
amazing. We never think of it. And when it happens, it just hits us like, look at that. It's so amazing.
yes, yes, yes. Maji has said something very beautiful that day also. I remember on the day of the book release, she said that it's a stroke of luck. The stroke
How
that she got,
fun.
she said, how beautiful is that, and how can anybody even call it luck? Well, this is the this is what we call a Jitendra. We'll be looking at it today. Means body is hurting, body is paining, it's all right. Mind is not paining, mind is not suffering. Mind has learned to detach from even physical emotions, physical impulses. Yes, Maji, if you would like to add anything, if you want, otherwise I continue. Thank you
It
for
is
that
the,
beautiful
it is the
example.
same
Yes,
thing. It is the
Ji.
same thing that after that, I called it a stroke of luck because it completely changed my attitude. And I found a super support in the presence of Krishna in my life all the time.
Ji, ji, ji.
Even today, when I went out for a walk, a friend met me and she asked
Hmm.
me, so is your leg getting stronger? I said, it's all His grace. She said, yes, yes, you have the child with you. What are you worried about? I said, I'm not worried. Whatever happens, He will take care. I'm not worried. That confidence I got only after the stroke. And I think that's a
Yes.
terrific, what shall I say, support or like the chap who was looking for the footprints. Like that,
Yes.
I don't have to look for the footprints. I know the child is always with me. And he
Yes.
keeps showing
Yes.
his presence in the conversations we have.
Ji,
Mm.
ji. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maji. That was a beautiful, you can say, real life experience. If Payal ji is doing namaskar, I will also do the same namaskar too. This is the anubhav. Anubhav is the real experience. And that is all we need to also experience in life. Because when the experience comes, nothing is there that can take it away from us. So, yes, let us continue. As we saw, how do we identify when a sage is near? It is simple. Krishna says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha sthitadir munirujyate. The one who is free from anger, or who is free from fear, is not getting overly excited in happiness, somebody who is not getting too depressed in the times of distress, then can easily understand. The question comes, should we become sages? Is it required? Well, Krishna has told, Tasmad Yogi Bhava Arjuna, meaning Krishna wants every seeker to become a sage. And that is probably what we should also aspire to be. Only the sage of Krishna does not have to have a particular outer appearance. This many centimeters of beard if it is a man, or the particular robe if it is a woman, or this particular. No, Krishna's sage can look any way, anytime, anywhere. You will not realize it except through these lakshanas. So the simplest thing, whether we go looking for other people, why not look inside of us and try to bring that? So this is number one. Because this person, what happens is then the person gets awakened. Why is it needed? That is the question. Why should I control my emotions? Why should I try to cultivate a poise at all times? It's very hard. It is so difficult. What is the motive or what is the objective? Because Krishna doesn't say anything without a reason. In the Gita, pick up any single shloka. One place he says focus at this point between the eyebrows. He is not even described what is that. That point where people wear tilak or bindi or anything like that. One word, somebody may wonder what is it. Somebody may give you a big shastric experience, I mean explanation about how this is the particular point. This is the point of the Sushumna, or this is the point of the Jagruti of Vivek Buddhi, or this is where the awakening of Kundalinis take place. Somebody will give a particular gland's name and everything. All that aside, Krishna didn't say anything. He just said, focus at this point. It will help you control your thoughts. But you just go a little bit of research, you do see 8th Adhyay, Krishna is talking about yogis controlling their afterlife journey by raising their pranas and forces correctly at this point. I mean, how much can you interpolate and how much can you extrapolate what Krishna says? You have to just look at it and try to hold on to it and move ahead. So here, what we see Krishna is saying, why should we attain that, boys? Well, it is for attaining the awakened mind. It is for realizing the higher mind. Why is the higher mind needed? Again, the same reason we don't want to suffer in life. Enough of suffering. We should take a call. Enough. No more I'm going to be dancing to the tunes of some forces of nature. I, as an individual, have a astitva. What is that astitva? It is not the astitva of Ahankar. It is the astitva of the divinity which I am a part of. So I will have to start associating, and the only way I can associate with that higher divinity is by bringing that poise. If that poise leaves me, no matter what justification I give, I will lose that connection. Like I was having difficulty connecting today's class, Wi-Fi connection not working. So I'm not able to take my workshop. Same thing if you see in life, your connection with the divine is disconnected. The joy, the ananda of life experience disappears. And it's so painful. Why do we need to suffer? It's not needed. Suffering is not a necessity in human life, but it comes because of all of this. Just think of Dhritarashtra. He ended up killing his entire. There's an accusation I'm making. Of course, Dhritarashtra is not around, so it is very easy for me to make accusations, but his attachment His attachment prevented him from upholding his duties. Never in his wildest dream did he think holding on to this attachment would lead to the entire, desecration of all the Kauravan princes, the 101. Again, you drew a connection with the Gita, you will see Krishna says, Asha Pasha Shatair Baddhaha. 100 bonds of desire, like the 100 Kauravas, trap a soul. Because attachment, we start with one desire. Ek pe ek free. Then do pe do free. It just goes on without our realization, without our realizing little things. One thing happens, you get satisfied. Maybe two things should happen now. Now three things should happen. And without our knowing it grows. That is why Krishna says, cut that particular link and become free. Not link also, it's a bondage. Free yourself from those chains. That is the pasha or they like think of them as chains that are just binding you completely and preventing you from even flying or soaring into the higher consciousness. Let us see the 57th shloka of the Gita. Krishna says, यह सर्वत्र न भिस्नेहः तत्तत् प्राप्य शुभाशुभम् नाभिनन्दति न द्वेष्टि tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a person who is thus detached. To neither virtue nor sin is he attached. When in all moments the poise is maintained, the awakened mind he is said to have attained. Such a person who is not attached, forget not bothering about Shubha or Ashubha. What is auspicious? What is inauspicious in the light of the divine? Everything is divine only. There's only one right, and because people get trapped as if they think they have taken the role of, they are now authorized auditors of Chitragupta only. I mean, why are we going to do calculations of whether I have done enough punya or enough papa as if we are going to create like a profit and loss balance sheet of our life only? We're not going to be able to do that. We will not understand from our perspective. Let the divine do that. Let us detach ourselves from the outcomes. Can we say, hey Bhagwan, please don't work right now. I just saw Panchanga. It's Rahu Kal. Your will cannot manifest now. This is wrong Mahadasha. Please properly follow. Can we tell that? Is there a particular time that is not divine? If you are connected with the divine, we are not trying to ridicule any of the Jyotish Shastra. It is a Shastra of Bharat. It is a scientific Shastra also. But we're not trying to trap ourselves and prevent the divine from manifesting, or prevent our divine cannot be prevented from manifesting as well. We can prevent ourselves from being part of the manifestation. That is all that can happen because of our attachments. So that is something we should, like a very good example Krishna says here is that yada samharate chayam kurmonganiva sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Means who is that awakened one? Like a tortoise receding into the shell's safety over all six senses, when he claims mastery, from everything he can withdraw himself and dwell in the awakened state of the self. So this is something like a kurma, like a tortoise inside of the shell. Once it enters the shell is impregnable from all types of attacks. It protects the tortoise. Like that is the yogi. No more. You say all the choicest of swear words, all the abuses to that yogi will still look at you and smile. I mean, I'm not trying to make it an SOP that we should go and check. That is not something. We might even get curses from that yogi, and we do not know if it may or may not come true, but they don't get disturbed because Durvasa was known, isn't it? Durvasa was known to curse also. But that was not an angry reaction, outer reaction. They are all living by their swabhavas. The yogis perform, but they are not attached. Most of the curses of Durvasa only ensured some great divine manifestations took place through the curses. That was his way. So the yogi is withdrawing from all what he hears or sees or feels, touches, all of that, all the indriyas. This person is withdrawn from the attachment. You cannot show a chips at a yogi and say, nobody can eat just one chips only now. He will not eat even one. You keep all the food items in front of that person will not have the reflex like the Pavlov's reflex was there, no conditioning, immediately looking at something and mouth watering. Nothing of that sort is happening to that yogi because the yogi chooses. That is the difference, is what Krishna is saying. Only then you can dwell in that awakened self. But is it easy? Is my question. Anybody? Is it easy to control our interests? Is it easy to run out of these expectations? Yes, anybody. Because it's our session of interaction. Yes,
Very
Dr.
difficult.
Sarojini is saying.
Very difficult.
Very difficult, Dr. Sarojini is. Okay. But Majid, is it possible? Whether difficult or not is different. But
Possible,
Majid, do you think it's
possible, possible.
means in everyday life
We
you
have
have
to.
you have children and probably grandchildren also, if I'm not mistaken, just guessing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So Majid, you have grandchildren also. Now, can how can you be detached from them, or is it possible for you to get detached from them? Not stop loving them. Detachment is not, the English word is a little cruel, but in the Sanskrit there are so many nice words. Mukta, Sangha, Asanga, all of them, without asakti. So many such words are there. But what do you think, Dr. Sarojini ji? Will attachments help you become a better grandmother or
Yeah,
not?
yes, definitely. Attachment
Hmm?
is essential
Essential.
um,
Is
to
it,
get.
Dr. Your grandson will fool you, no, for a chocolate. He'll understand that you are attached. So continuously the grandson will keep telling. Like I remember my mother, I used to tease her. क्या मैं इतना बुरा हूं मैं माँ? One song I knew it would make her melt. मैं कभी बतलाता नहीं पर तेरी परवाह करता हूँ मैं and I would just add that line and she would now she learned कि this boy is manipulating. She would then come and give me a hit, stop that song, stop singing, because that is how, otherwise what will happen is in attachments we get taken for a ride, no, we cannot uphold our we think we are doing like Dhritarashtra didn't think he was doing wrong in his attachment to Duryodhana, but I think, Dr. Sarojini ji, if we are detached, we can love our, like, say, if you have a grandchildren, you can love them better, isn't it?
We have to love without.
Means
But I am
that Baba,
against all these junk
you're
foods.
again,
This chocolate, I don't give them.
you don't give him. But if
Hmm.
the child
No,
asks,
no,
still you
not at
don't give.
all.
That means
Because
you are
I also
detached, no?
don't eat in front.
Because you don't eat.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, I was just, okay, Dr. Bhavna wants to add something. Okay.
Yeah, actually, one thing I learned that if we are attached, our perceptions are deformed. They are not
Hmm.
at all clear.
Deformed.
They get
Okay.
deformed.
Oh,
Perceptions about the relationship, about things. If there is, you bring attachment in it, your
hmm.
perception change and they are not true.
Okay.
Perception about conversation, interpretations in any relationship.
Okay.
So if you are
Oh,
detached,
that is interesting.
that clarity of understanding the proper relationship is more possible. The moment you are attached, there is a definitely defect in perception.
Okay, this is a very dangerous thing. As a doctor, I think you must be looking at slides of patients. As I know you are a pathologist, so you must be getting cancer patient slides also. But if your
Regular
perception
relationship,
is this,
regular relationship. Your mind is deviated, you
no,
will
I'm
not
just
follow.
my question is if your perception gets deformed, your diagnosis will also get
Yeah, definitely.
spoiled,
It will
isn't
have,
it? There will be
yes, it will have,
misdiagnosis.
yes. Especially
This is
if
in
I
your
am
work
always
front.
true, in one front. Or if I say that I am always true because I am senior, and with that,
Hmm.
there will be a defect in it. If
There will be a
the,
defective
you
diagnosis.
can't take
Okay.
help from your juniors if you think you are
Okay.
the right one.
Okay.
So
Right.
any
Right. So
relationship for that matter, if you have
okay.
attachment to either yourself or to people, it is going to change your perceptions. They are not
Okay.
near truth.
All right. All right. So can we just take it one more step by saying now whether professional life or personal life, wherever we look at, because of attachment, our perception gets deformed, and we must take a call. Ki I cannot afford to deform my perception. I mean, when what will happen is when somebody truly loves you, you're not able to understand that. And when somebody is manipulating and fooling you, you will get trapped by because you are believing something in your mind because of your attachment, but you are not seeing the truth in front of you. So this is, I think, can we not all, if we want to infer, attachments are always deforming our perceptions.
The clarity
Yes.
disappears. The
Ji, ji,
clarity
ji.
disappears.
Yes, Shashiji, absolutely. The clarity disappears, and then Krishna also disappears from our view. He may not himself cease to exist because he is a Kshetrajna, master of all the Kshetras who is present everywhere, waiting. But suddenly, I stopped praying because he is not answering my prayers anymore. That kind of attitude comes in. Well, that is just a business deal which is not working well. So you are trying to find another business partner in the divine. But I don't think it works that way. So let us continue. Look at one more shloka we will see now. Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchitah indriyani pramadhini haranti prasabham manaha. The 60th shloka. Even amongst men who are wisest, even those who make the efforts hardest, the senses agitate them to go astray, and these defeated minds lose their way. And somebody who is even very wise, very strong, but they are getting disturbed by their indriyas, by their senses. I heard that person talk bad about me. That's it. अभी तो मैं छोड़ूंगा नहीं, मैं छोड़ूंगी नहीं. Revenge bhavna enters inside. And in that, we suddenly start trying to see things, we start visualizing things, we start imagining things, and sometimes we are getting in a loop of our own, away from what is right. Most of the what we can say mental psychosis and all of that originates from this way, where you are not perceiving the truth. You are there is a very what we can say. It's like you are only projecting. There's a beautiful word in psychology also that term is used. Projecting or projections, meaning it's like you are only visualizing and projecting what is there. Imagine a buffalo comes on the road and you say, oh, what a beautiful peacock. Everybody will laugh at you. It cannot be. But somebody who is lost in their own deformed perception will be sure. Or I think anybody has heard of, I think if you grew up reading about Don Quixote, the adventures of Don Quixote. Anybody has heard of this? The word quixotic came into existence from this quixotic fantasy was probably after this particular character. He imagined that he is a great knight. He was actually a retired guy, not having anything to do. He had a donkey and he thought it's his great knight. And he would go trying to fight. And he had a company also. He was not alone. So his partner, Sancho Panza, whatever his name was, and there were beautiful adventures which we learned in school. He went to fight windmills thinking he's slaying dragons. All of this is just in his own mind, in his own mind. And that is what happens to all of us without our knowing because of these attachments. Meaning, we are lost. We are lost. We are defeated. Defeated by whom? Defeated by ourselves in this trap of Maya. A very deep, dense trap, very difficult to come out of this illusion of Maya. That is what Krishna says. If we just let us look at some shlokas, because the shlokas, if you see some of them, how does a person get defeated? It is explained in this chapter actually of the second adhyaya, 62, 63, 64. No, 62 and 63 itself, these two. How does a man get defeated? Or how does one have or possess a defeated mind? We learned that our attachments and senses make us go astray. These two shlokas, 62 and 63, very nicely tell us. Dhyayate vishayan punsaha sangasteshopajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate. And look at the next one also because there's a continuation. Krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smruti vibhramaha smruti bhranshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. destruction, with the loss of buddhi. Where does it begin? It begins here. Those intellectuals, who our subjects contemplate, attached to those subjects, lost they become. And in their attachment, they are by desires overcome, and by desires within themselves, anger they generate. And in anger, they become hoodwinked by delusion. In delusion, their memories only gets clouded. In this forgetfulness, their wisdom is destroyed, and the loss of wisdom furthers their annihilation. Means this is the entire trap. Initially, a beautiful subject comes in front of an intellectual. The person gets so happy. Yes, this is it. I'm enjoying it. But in that, he forgets what is Shreyas, what is Preyas, what is desirable, and what is right. A very big researcher, because he got so attached in his research, he wanted to show that he has done groundbreaking discovery. He fudged the results. Statistically, he made changes in the data which he was analyzing. Why? Well, he got attached, isn't it? He got attached to that and he wanted to somehow go after results without looking at what is there in the front. You can't fool the world forever. Sometimes we are successful in fooling the world for some time, but not forever. So what happens then? They become lost. So this guy actually, after getting a lot of name and fame for that particular fake research, got called out by another scientist when they said this cannot be replicated in another place. This is failed. This is a failed research. This is a fake research, and this person had monetary tie-ups with another organization, and that is probably what fueled the research. Then the person had to retract that, and that led to a very big loss of face for that researcher. It was a permanent loss of face, but also for an entire university which was trying to push that work ahead because of a political or some kind of vested agenda. Not the agenda. Not there should be only one agenda, isn't it? The agenda of truth. Orwell has an agenda, the mother's agenda. What is that agenda? That is the agenda for establishing the higher consciousness for the world. Anything against that is falsehood. Anything deviating from that is waste. And that is exactly what you see here. The intellectuals get lost in their own, what we can say, subjects. Attached to that, they become lost. And in attachment, they are generating more desires. Can someone tell me what happens when a desire doesn't get fulfilled? It generates
Angry.
Unhappiness.
anger, unhappiness. It becomes unhappiness initially, but it happens again and again. Unhappiness starts turning into frustration, and frustration leads to then anger only. Anger at what? Anger at the some
Other,
individual, or sometimes anger at
on myself,
world.
self,
Yes.
self,
Okay,
self
maybe at
also.
self. Okay, it can be self. It depends on the individual. Actually, if the person is neurotic, the person will attack self. If the person is psychotic, the person will start attacking everybody around that individual. Whatever nature it is still creating frustration because desires are not getting over. Anger is increasing. And when you are angry, have we ever listened to a pravachan of an angry man, angry scholar? Never. Not a single line can come out. I remember one person in a conference, in a World Sanskrit conference, one person spoke for 1 hour in Sanskrit, eating up the time of everybody else also. He was supposed to speak for 20 minutes. Because of him, the entire, so many doctors were going to present. They had to shortlist everything. But he was presenting himself as a very pious and very balanced individual. Suddenly, his wife came into the camera and he started shouting at her in his native language, forgetting the atmosphere, what he was in, and the language he was speaking in. He was speaking in Shuddha Sanskrit. Suddenly, what happened was he lost that connection. And everybody noticed it. And then again, he shook his head and as if nothing happened. But everybody, we were watching, we were on the other side, we were already annoyed because our time got lost. But then everybody was snickering. Look at this. What a duality. Well, this is exactly what happens actually. They become hoodwinked by delusion and then the memory gets clouded, meaning that person forgot. No, he was talking on live to somebody else. How did he forget that? He was ready with his lecture, he was preparing, it was a normal thing, delivering a talk. How can somebody completely forget that? Well, that is the nature. That is where a person, because of the anger inside, he saw her and probably got so angry because of XYZ reasons, and that anger immediately made him forget Desha, Kala, Paristhiti, all gone. You don't realize it only. So this memory only gets clouded. You forget what you were going to do, what you were supposed to do. And this forgetfulness, wisdom is also lost. Buddhi is gone. Buddhi decides, okay, this person is angry, this person is forgetful. No problem. I don't need to do my work. I can go on a vacation. And that individual without Buddhi ends up destroying everything. All that was good inside of that individual, that also is lost. There was an idol I looked up to when I was very young, a double amputee who would run, who had aspired to run at the speed of the regular folks with able limbs. And he was very close to achieving that, and that was his aspiration. Suddenly, I saw how he fell from grace. He shot his girlfriend. That's all. And he got caught. And then he tried to show, means in that such frustration, do not know what was the reason. I didn't follow after hearing it because I was too young and too disappointed. I felt like I was let down. Again, that is my own personal attachment to an image of him. I thought he was so great and he was the one. I'm going to get inspired and be like him. And suddenly that has fallen apart. But what has happened to his life? You see, all his efforts. He did efforts. He did take very nice, so many years of effort, all of that lost in moments of anger. Moments of anger, he has done the most unthinkable and unforgivable act. Can you say, I'm sorry, I was angry that time? Can you condone anybody? No, because actions are done and then you cannot, nobody, it will be a fool for somebody to continuously accept. No, that person was not angry. Only when that person gets angry, he becomes Ravana. Otherwise, he's like a great Vedic Rishi. Can we tolerate it? No, everybody has to have that stairya, that balance. This is not something which is, if somebody is attacking someone, how can you tolerate it? Whether it is you or somebody else. Swadharma is important. So this happens because of attachment, and that is why this is not the way of a sadhak also, because that person is completely destroyed by the attachments only. But that is not the only the case of all. This is a defeated mind we are looking at. Why do we need to only see the defeated mind? We're not going on that direction. Let us see the side of the victor. What is a victorious mind? Just imagine if you tell me you want to come to Pondicherry. I will not tell you, ki, हाँ, remember when you are going to Shimla, you should pack very cool clothes. You're not going on that route. Why do you need to think about it? When you are here, this is your route. You have decided a particular thing. That means now we have to see how do we become a victor instead of seeing, we know what are the disadvantages of losing our way, and we don't want to fall in that trap. So, how do we become the victor? That also Krishna says in this adhyaya only. He says in the 61st shloka, Tani sarvani sanyamya युक्त आसीत मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. Capable of controlling the senses is only he who focuses and meditates upon me. For when the sensual distractions one overcomes, his intelligence awakened and illumined becomes. Krishna is saying that person who is able to focus on the divine, at what times? All times. Somebody who is able to focus. It is very much possible. There is no time that is not, it cannot be dedicated to the divine. Somebody says, no, what if I go to the loo and I have to, or what do I do when I'm relieving myself? No, there is nothing. The divine is the divine. You don't, there's no such auspicious or inauspicious when we say that. So that all times we must think of the divine. It is very essential. It is very essential because in college there was one friend of mine. Whenever he wanted to use swear words, when we would come together, he had a photo of a particular Baba. He would keep that photo down and cover it and then turn, use swear words, again lift, put it back in its place. What is he doing? Is he closing the ears of his and then using those words? What is that action? We all found it very amusing. But Maybe he was trying to keep the sanctity, was not in front of this. That was his personal way of thinking. But practically and logically, it is absolutely pointless. If you have that consciousness, you will not utter a single word. And where is the place that divine is not there, or what time is there where the divine does not function? It is as simple as that. Wherever you go, a lot of people have these own mental constructs which they keep projecting everywhere, that this is not divine, this is not. But Krishna says somebody who is able to focus on the divine can also control all the indriyas. Say someone who is always emotional. The emotions take over that person all the time. The person may ask, what can I do now? This is my nature. No, it is not that. Focus on the divine. When you love the divine, you become conscious of the divine. Which lower emotion can overcome you? Which lower emotion can take control of you? There was I think I don't remember exactly where this context was. I had written this poem somewhere, and there was this question in that. Who is there? Who is there on earth? That was the question. Who is there on earth who has sought the refuge of God sincerely? Who is there who has sought God sincerely and still is suffering? Is there anybody? And there was an answer to that question was silence. And I'll try to find it out exactly. There is some 3 points in it where somebody who seeks the divine sincerely without any expectation, how will that person suffer? When you want nothing from the divine, when you have zero expectations from the divine, you have just surrendered to the divine. What is there? What is there going? What kind of sorrow will come? Not required at all. The person experiences a bliss of the divine consciousness. It is important. It is important to surrender. Shri Aurobindo says, become the slave of the divine. Not even servant. Servant has rights, no? कि छुट्टी है अभी जाना है घर पे जाना है this that all extra XYZ. When you are doing sadhana completely, fully, truly, you have to love the divine absolutely. Just focus on the divine. This can happen in even in the corporate world. We had one participant, Lakshmi Narayanji, almost 4 5 years ago. I'm quoting his example, but he beautifully shared how he said, Krishna will not be happy if I didn't do this project. This was in the just around that COVID time, and he being conscious of Krishna and doing it for Krishna ensured that his people in his firm got a job because of that. How is that possible? Well, in corporate world, Krishna is not there. A lot of people say corporate life is different. Don't speak. This is like this. This cannot work there. No, Krishna is everywhere. The divine is present in the all moments. We saw how Usha Maji shared that her book release became divine. She's calling it a stroke of luck. How can it be a stroke of luck? Anybody cannot understand it logically. When somebody has physical pain for so many years, who will be happy with it? And who can even dare to call it a good luck? But somebody who has the anubhav, somebody who has a resolve to connect with the divine, only that person can call it. Yes, Dr. Panani wants to say something. Yes,
Okay,
please.
as you shared Usha Maji's experience, I have a beautiful experience that this rhythm of Krishna, rhythm of
Hmm.
Krishna, the book I had taken to Janmabhoomi Mathura. Sorry, this yes,
Krishna's.
Mathura,
Okay.
Krishna's Janmabhoomi. And I was not knowing, I went for some other reason and then I went there and kept the book in Janmabhoomi there. And I just prayed that I wanted to offer this book to you, oh Sri Krishna. And I was coming back. That day I got to know that it was a Gita Jayanti. It was on the Gita Jayanti day that
Okay.
I know.
Okay. So that is
So,
your connection with the divine.
yes,
That is automatically we think of the divine. It happens. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. G. And this is the thing we have to all recognize that we will find moments in our life. We will see that oh wow means there's a question. Is God there? The question is there sometimes, but we get an answer. God is, and there's a full stop after that line. That is enough. God is full stop enough for me. God is there. That's all. How much more do we need beyond that if we recognize that? More than recognize when you get some anubhav, like how it was just shared now, or how Usha Maji shared. When you get an experience, then that becomes integrated in your consciousness. And that is exactly what we have to see. To get that, also, we have to be sincere in our quest. And the simplest way Krishna says is meditate upon me, focus upon me, do this for me. Make laddus for Krishna. They will not become tasty. And who will experience the joy of those tasty laddus? Krishna will experience, yes. Everybody else also will get to experience that joy. You also will get to taste it. It would become more fun, all the more. So, why not every action that we do, if we can offer it, we can get free from that. Because Krishna says this is the one who has overcome all of this. And so, there's no room for frustration, there's no room for jealousy, there is no room for inferiority also. All these are attachments or some kind of cheating has been done. You are being conned. Be sure of this. Every time you feel you're inferior, every time you feel depressed, every time you feel emotional, just understand it's a scam. Scam of Prakriti. Prakriti's lower agents are trying to come and scam you of your wealth, which is the ananda and trupti of life. All these things, if you keep them aside, focus on the divine, it'll be very easy. Even the online scams take place because of greed. No, some amount of greed is there. Maybe my wealth will be multiplied. Maybe my wealth will increase. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are not well versed with the digital aspects, they are cheated. They are scared, or they are some kind of insecurity is utilized. If somebody tries says they're going to double your money. Come on, do this. You say thank you. I have zero. Can you double zero? Gone. What will how zero two times is going to remain? You make my 100 times. You can't lower it, you can't increase my wealth. Why? Because I don't have any. If you realize that, where is the question of losing anything? If you realize that everything belongs to the divine, as in the Isha Upanishad, it says Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhunjita Magrada Kasya Siddhanam. You'll be able to give pravachan to the scammer also. The Gita is the issue. Upanishad is telling, don't lust after another person's wealth. It will not give you happiness. Nothing belongs to you. Everything belongs to the divine. So don't try to steal the divine. Well, you tell that to yourself also. Why are you going to get trapped? Where are you going to get conned? How will you feel that you are insignificant in the divine's will? Every individual, because they have inside of them, as Krishna has said, the divinity ingrained inside of their consciousness. Each and every person is a significant and conscious member of the divine plan. You are aware of it, you become conscious, you enjoy what is Leela. You don't become aware because attachments, you feel I am going to have these attachments only. Then you are going to be put into another category, which is the Maya. You are going to be conned. That's all. Scammed and you keep suffering unnecessarily. Not knowing how you are going to come out. It's like running around, dog chasing its tail, thinking one day I will catch it. What's going to happen? Energy is going to get lost. Ultimately, the dog will fall down and sit down. And then say, tail is behind me only. I cannot lose it. But all the while the running was going on because it had to be caught. That feeling, that obsessive compulsive disorder enters into the people because of the attachments only. That is something we should try to avoid ourselves because Krishna says, become free without this raga, without this dvesha. It's so easy. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaishcharan viyuktaistu atma vashair vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. When one bereft of hatred and desires lives, and no authority to his senses he gives, that champion who reigns in attraction is blessed with the awakened self's satisfaction. See, Krishna is calling such a person a champion, a true one, true champion who is a winner. Winner of what? Well, winner of life only. Krishna is declaring this person, this Jitendra. There was an actor of the exteriors, his name was Jitendra. But what is the meaning of that? A person, whoever conquers the Indriyas, that person is worthy of being called a Jitendra. The one who cannot be driven away from the path. just by some lust or desire or anger or frustration. Nothing is disturbing such a person. That is the person. All of our great yogis were all Jitendras because they controlled. No, but there are stories, isn't it? Apsaras come and try to disturb the yogis' tapasya. And the yogis who fall to that dance of the Apsaras, they suffer. Their sadhana becomes bhanga. The screen is frozen. Can you hear me, everybody? There's some issue in the screen, I think.
Can hear
Is
you.
the audio?
We
Audio
can
is
You can
fine.
hear
hear
you.
me. Then it's right. That's fine then. So that's what miss so many of these. So many yogis, they would raise their tapobala. Suddenly, in the story, someone would be wanting to empty that. So they try to disturb them this way or that way. But then those who overcome everything, they could rise to the highest status, even become Brahma Rishi also by tapasya. Look at our Hanuman also. He was the Jitendra, isn't it? मनोजवं ऋतुतुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वा नरयूतमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शरणं प्रपद्ये. There also it is simple. How to become Jitendra is become being a Duta of the divine or becoming the representative or the divine or becoming the Dasa of the divine. Become Ramdas, become Kalidas, become a Das of the divine. That is all that is needed. You will automatically become Jitendra because divine gives the wisdom to all those who surrender to the divine. It is as simple. Krishna also promises. He says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam. How will your buddhi become brushed? When Krishna is only giving you that buddhi. Krishna is going to tell you, hey, watch it, Shakuni is coming, don't play, don't get into that game. You have to call upon Krishna. If you forget Krishna's presence, how is it going to happen? When you remember, nothing can happen. Draupadi also finally got saved because that was the time she remembered Krishna. She had forgotten Krishna's presence earlier. This is what happens in our life. So we must understand. We look at just one more part we can just see and then we conclude the 65th shloka. Because there is a prasada for those who walk on this path, who try to become victors. And prasada is always nice, isn't it? My grandfather used to, at the end of Ram Raksha Sutra, give us these sugar candies, sugared, what rock sugar, what they call it. So whether or not it was, I do not know whether initially it was devotion for Sri Rama or devotion for the rock sugar that made me start sitting there as a child. But after all, after so many months, then we were very lucky that we could, because of that discipline, we started learning. Slowly we began to understand little the meanings also. So or many times people go to the temple because the prasad is very good. This nice prasad is going to be there in this temple. So at least for that. Somebody wants to add something, is it? Vaishalji is adding something? No. All right. So what is this prasada that is coming to that sadhak who has controlled the mind? Well, prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajaayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthati. Unhappiness in all its form ends, and all sorrows away this blessing sends, filling the seeker's mind with ethereal joys. He attains the perfect wisdom and poise. It's what is this prasada going to bring? Well, that person is going to experience a joy that comes from the ending of all types of unhappiness. Means you will not have to go for retreats. You will not have to go to some special place for a peace of mind. Vrindavan will be manifested in your own home. How beautiful will that be? The Ananda, the beautiful Ananda, where all sorrow, all the unhappiness has now started disappearing. And then you are ready to do what? The next state of actions. What are the divine actions? You become free, you become ready to perform actions for the divine in an awakened spiritual state with one kind of supreme illumination of the divine's will only. It starts functioning. You understand. No more are you working from lower logic, lower mental logic is not working on you anymore. A divine aspect starts flowing through you. This is what Krishna has told. Unfortunately or fortunately, Arjuna does not buy any of this. He says, what? Again, there's action. I thought after becoming detached, I can go and sit quietly and enjoy. So he's now going to get confused. In the Gita, at least, he again asks a question. Krishna, stop confusing me. Either tell me to do action or ask me to become a sadhu who is retreating from action. You're confusing me by asking me to do both. But that is the Gita. It is trying to bring a bridge between material and spiritual life. There is no separate material life or separate spiritual life. They're all connected with each other according to Krishna. So I think with this we are ready to conclude. There is just one simple way to become the Jitendra, to be the one who is a victor of the mind. It is by surrendering to the divine, meditating upon the divine. What time? At all times. And there's only one way we can lose our path is by getting trapped in attachments and blurring our perception with attachments. We may lose our path that way. So, with this, I request Chitraji to give a summary, after which, if anybody has any queries, we can look at that for a few minutes and then conclude with the Shanti Mantra.
Hari Om. So today we saw that Krishna further explains uh, a yogi's mindset further. A yogi is one who is detached and he is untouched by the papas or the punyas, and in all moments. I don't know. It's working. Yeah, sorry, I had a disturbance on the screen. Yeah. So Krishna explains about the qualities of the yogi, and one who is balanced at all moments, and who has exercised great control over his senses, and he is always able to live in the state of the higher mind. So he explains all these things and goes on to explain how a person with a victorious mindset looks, whereas a defeated mindset. So we'll see the victorious mindset. Such a person who knows that having sense of control over the indriyas is non-negotiable, and his whole purpose and of any task that he performs is offered to the divine, and he meditates upon the divine, and he has overcome all the distractions. Such a person's intelligence is said to have been awakened, and hence he can be called as an illumined person. He is free from the lower emotions of jealousy, anger, etc., and he is not trapped in Maya. Krishna calls such a person who has uh, won over his senses as Jitendra, as because he has conquered all his senses, and such a person is said to have be blessed with an eternal flow of happiness, as he is no longer unhappy, and he attains the highest wisdom. Whereas a defeated mind is one who has deep rooted attachments and gets driven by desires. Because of these desires, anger sets in, and this anger or agitation allows delusion to come in, and this delusion uh, takes over, and which in turn disturbs his memory. Such a person with clouded memory cannot have a proper wisdom, and his wisdom is destroyed, and it leads to his own destruction. So these are the things that we saw today.
Hari Om, Namaste. Yes, thank you, Chitraji, for that wonderful summary. If anybody has anything to ask or share, you are welcome, or I conclude with the Shanti Mantra. Any point that is related to something with our everyday life, if you wish to share, else we conclude. All right, then I think nobody is sharing, so let's conclude. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरि ओम तत्सत् कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं जय श्री कृष्ण पुनर्मिलामः we meet again on Monday the same time
हरि ओम
नमस्ते हरि ओम हरि
हरि ओम
थैंक यू
हरि
जी
ओम
हरि ओम जी
हरि ओम
शुभ रात्रि
शुभरात्रि शुभरात्रि
हरि ओम हरि ओम
हरि
हरि
ओम
ओम
Good
जय
night.
कृष्ण थैंक
हरे
यू
कृष्ण थैंक
Hari
यू जी
Om, sir.
हरि ओम जी नमस्ते जी हरि ओम
हरि ओम
हरि ओम उषा जी you were adding
हरि
something in namaste Tanushree ji हरि ओम Maji you wanted to add something is it I thought your hand went up no all right okay ji I conclude